That was just a small project that I did for college radio a few years back. Thing is though, here on Tachyon Radio we will be doing shows that incorporate the paranormal and specifically UFOs. So, if you've got a sighting that you'd like to tell us about, or perhaps even a case study of a well-known file that we've not got around to yet, here's your chance to join in. You can either send us a text file and we'll read it out for you, or you can send us an MP3 or WAV file. You can do that by going to the website, which is tachyonradio.com, and you'll be able to get hold of us, or you can just send it direct to me, and that's Steve at tachyonradio.com.
On a dark night, listen to The Dark Night, here on Tachyon Radio. You're listening to Tachyon Radio.
Dave from Tameside Paranormal Researchers.
Hello, my name's Wayne from Tameside Paranormal Researchers.
And I'm Chris with Tameside Paranormal Researchers.
Okay guys, we've got together today to talk a little bit about preparation for paranormal investigation and how we might use and utilise certain bits of equipment that we take along on the investigations, why we might want to use them bits of equipment, and our favourite pieces of kit. So Wayne, what have you got to say on this?
Well, my favourite pieces of kit are the digital recorders. I like using the still cameras, because when you take a picture you've kind of got an instant visual of what could be knocking about at the time. On the digital recorders you can basically just get EVPs, recordings, and seeing if we're picking anything up at the same time as we do on the investigation. That's some of my personal kit, what I like to use. Krista?
Well, it depends on the location. Usually when we pick a location, we'll do some research about the location, what sightings or, what paranormal activity has been reported there, and that will kind of dictate what equipment I like to focus with on the evening. I'm a big fan of audio analysis. Using the Spirit Box and audio analysis is always very fascinating.
I think one of the good points about audio and trying to capture EVP is the ability when you've got an audio recorder, obviously that gives you the option to be able to plug headphones into it and listen in real time to what's going on. Because in most cases, obviously, it's using an electret condenser type microphone, which has got a broader frequency range than the human hearing. So because of that, you might hear things that you wouldn't otherwise hear when you're conducting these EVP experiments. And then, of course, like you say, when you get back and do it, I mean, it's funny that you've said that about liking to do EVP and audio analysis and then the Spirit Box, because there's one bugbear about that I've heard you mention in the past, actually, Chris, when it comes to using the PSB-7 and recording shouts and audio experiments like we're doing, and that's the chugging train noise of the sweep, isn't it?
Yeah, it can kind of peck your head a little bit after a while, but
especially if it's been going for 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's usually about my limit, is about 25 minutes, and then
for anybody who doesn't know what the PSB-7 Spirit Box is, basically it's an FM and an AM radio, and it scans through the different radio frequencies, and you can set the sweep rate between, say, like 100 milliseconds up to 500 milliseconds before it moves on to the next. And you get a type of chugging effect as it moves from one frequency to the other. It doesn't lock onto radio stations for very long, but you hear little bits of what we call radio breakthrough coming through, obviously, on the Spirit Box. But the sound of this constant, like, shuffling through the frequency gives a noise like an old steam train, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is quite harsh on the ears. But in saying that, Wayne, you know yourself that when we've been out on these locations and we've used the Spirit Box, say for instance Krista's gone off trying to do an EVP session with an audio recorder, because we know that's Chris likes to do that. She likes to go off with an audio recorder, do a bit of a shout away from the rest of the group, obviously letting us know where she is for safety reasons, but goes off to do an audio session so that we can't contaminate any evidence she might get for an EVP, and then we concentrate on other things. However, when it comes to the Spirit Box, we've been to some locations where it's given us some pretty interesting results. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. From where we've been on certain locations, especially ones that we go back to and do a pretty regular investigation.
When we think that it's worth using, we'll use it, because it can be easy to get tied up in one piece of equipment, can't it?
Yeah.
Pulling out the same bit of equipment every time. But we have had results from the PSB7, which is why we use it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like you said, it scans through the frequencies that fast. Like you said, you get an old steam train sample.
Yeah.
But because it's going through that fast, you'll only get certain part words coming through.
Yeah.
And as you know yourself, it's hard to get a full sentence.
Yeah.
And when it's actually scanning through and you get a full sentence, it's going over quite a few of the frequencies. It's not just like broken words.
Yeah, and the chances of it being, 10 frequencies or 10 radio stations either side of one another speaking and talking about exactly the same subject to give you a sentence that in most cases makes sense and is relevant to either the questioning that you're doing towards the audio recorder or Spirit Box at the time, or even the location is highly unlikely. The chance of it being coincidence a little bit too much just to explain it all the way.
I mean, even with it, you can still make mistakes with it yourself by misinterpreting what comes out. I mean, I did at one point at one certain location,
easily done,
then realised what it could have been next time we went to the location again, and realised it wasn't what I initially thought it was.
Yeah,
it actually referenced to something totally different once we'd done a couple of more investigation there on the subject, and a bit of research that we did.
Yeah, and a little bit more analysis on the actual recording, because we record these sessions, we don't just leave things to chance. And then of course it's left up to poor Krista to sit there with the headphones trawling through this audio and all this steam train noise, isn't it?
Yes, I try to keep up the best I can with that. Even though you wear the headphones and do listen in real time while you're recording, it's still important to analyze it afterwards, because a word can go by in a split second and you're like, wait a minute, did I hear? And that happens quite often.
Yeah, because you're concentrating on the word you might have heard, you've missed other words because it's coming through.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
so it's kind of like when you're listening back on the recordings, you hear a lot more on what's been said. So then you realise when you come back off the investigations, that's what it meant, not that.
And the thing is what you've got is, once you're wearing these headphones and you're hearing this now live audio coming through from the microphone on the recorder through the headphones, is as soon as you hear an anomaly, what we do is we'll say mark within a couple of seconds of hearing any kind of live anomaly, so that when it comes to evidence review, we've got the ability to go back a couple of seconds and know that we're listening for any kind of possible anomaly. And in most cases it can be something quite normal that through the headphones is more amplified and might not have been something we expected to hear, but in a lot of cases it's turned out to be something that has indeed been a true anomaly. And as Krista says, you sitting down and listening to it again after the fact is like listening to it with a different set of ears.
It's quite amazing how much you pick up afterwards, footage or the audio that we're recording.
And the thing is, with video, it's exactly the same kind of animal, really. You might look through the viewfinder or the LCD display, and it's difficult to keep an eye on that and view the world of the investigation that you conducted at the time just through this LCD display, rather than looking around you trying to pay attention to noises, to sights and sounds, and just the ambient environment at the location that you're at, because you're staring into this little 3 to 4 inch little screen. That's
You're isolating yourself slightly.
You're well away from the rest of the investigation, aren't you? You know.
And one of my favorite tools, so to speak, is my senses. I think you mentioned earlier, I like to kind of go off on my own a little bit at locations and just kind of send my feelers out, listen to the natural sounds of the area and what, so I would recognize something that's not normal. Or, just looking around, letting your eyes adapt to the darkness, because we do tend to do investigations at night, so.
Yeah, that's another thing on that respect, because we are, like, using cameras with flashes. We tend to warn each other about if we've got the camera pointing in each other's direction, so we say flash so that we can protect our night vision.
Yeah, to save the older night vision, yeah, the ability for ourselves to see in the dark, let alone the cameras, yeah. But it's the feeling removed from the feel of the location is a very strange feeling to have when every fibre of your being is telling you to look around you, to listen out for every single little noise. But you're not, because essentially you're there to collect evidence, really, and personal experience is great, and we might have a plethora of personal experiences that we can all look back upon and recount to people if we're requested to do so. However, it doesn't provide scientific evidence. It doesn't provide anything for analysis. It doesn't prove or disprove anything.
No.
It just becomes another tale. And witness testimony is great, but I suppose another way of looking at it would be, if you have an actual experience yourself, then in many ways you're no longer an investigator. You're actually a witness now, because you have had a paranormal, or what you consider to be a paranormal experience, and to be able to detach yourself from that is nigh on impossible, because you've had an experience, and that just can't be ignored. So you become a paranormal investigator stroke witness every time something anomalous occurs. I don't mean so much in evidence review, but more when you actually have a personal experience out in the field,
When you're out investigating, you get it's like when you're setting up equipment in certain areas, like your cameras and the digital recorders, boxing off rooms so that, like you got your sensors, your infrared cameras, all being set up so that they can be set up in certain rooms.
Which we try to lock off so people can't contaminate.
Yeah. It's getting all the equipment ready at the beginning as well. It's making sure that for the location that we're going, it's definitely got to be the right kit that goes with us.
Absolutely. Some important things to take along on an investigation are, you can have as many electronic devices as you want, as much technical wizardry as you want. You can have a bag full of tricks, but you've got to have a flask. You've got to have a flask.
Good old flask.
You've got to have a flask so you can have a hot drink, and the ability to step back and have a little bit of a time out, because that's also a good thing. But perhaps one thing that's overlooked by many people, not everybody, but one thing that might be overlooked by people that are in the paranormal field or interested in being or becoming a paranormal investigator is the spiritual approach to it, the state of mind, perhaps, the way that you sort of prepare yourself to go into a location and do that. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Christy, you might want to talk about.
Well, again, I try to get a little bit of information about the location before we go, so that I have a frame of reference of what activity might be manifesting, if any. I usually, try to get into a peaceful state of mind, so that if there is anything in a location, I might be able to tune into it a little bit better and not have any, of my own baggage clouding my judgment.
Yeah.
So I do try to get into a mellow kind of state of mind.
Yeah, so state of mind's just as much an important piece of equipment to take along on a paranormal investigation as is any EMF meter or any night vision camera or laser thermometer and so on and so forth. You say you like taking digital photos. There's a reason you like that, though, isn't there, Wayne? Is it the surprise of analysing these pictures after and maybe getting a little Brucey bonus, getting out?
There's always the chance of catching something. If you don't take a photograph, you're not going to catch it.
Yeah, you've got to be there, haven't you?
You've got to be there to do it. You've got to catch them.
That's the thing we might have mentioned in the past as well. It does take a special breed of person to do it. I think the hard work where paranormal investigation is concerned, it isn't in actually being in a so-called haunted location and wandering around with a torch or wandering around with a van with a dog in it and calling yourself Scooby. It's the analysis, isn't it? It's looking through the reams of everything afterwards and trying to apply some kind of analytical mindset to it to come up with some kind of an answer.
Yeah, a logical answer to it, see what it is. Because not everything what goes bump in the middle of the night is not paranormal.
No.
And from that situation there, that's why we go out to find out if these locations are in some way, shape or form got some sort of activity about them. And I like it, mate, because some of the stuff that we get up to, like we're like preparing for like going on and invest, with the stuff that I end up doing, I like to try to grab a couple of hours and settle myself down, calm my brain down and concentrate on the investigation myself. Just going with a calm mind, not thinking everything that goes bump in the middle of the night is something to be scared of.
Yeah, and what you've made a good point there is the fact it's got to be taken seriously, yet you should still enjoy what you're doing when you go out and do it, you know?
Definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I go into some locations and I do think, oh my God, what's going on here?
Why have I done this?
Yeah.
McDonald's is so warmer and the burgers are better.
Definitely. And I've had in locations what have scared me, and it's not been paranormal. I've mentioned certain places in the past on previous chats that we've had, but it's mainly animals that tend to make me jump because they just come out of the way, out of the blue, and it's like unexpected.
Fear of the unknown.
Yeah, and that's when you got to control your fight or flight.
You know, the main thing to fear is the living, not the dead.
Well, yeah, that's definitely.
Something that kind of came to my mind as you were talking, Wayne, is how important it is to me to be a part of a group, because you have more than one set of eyes, more than one set of ears to help you to go through analysis. You know, we all discuss, and we all, you know, we've had some great conversations over a pack of photographs, you know, and also when we're out on investigations, we kind of play off each other. If one person's getting a little bit too wrapped up in the location, you know, there's always some comic relief around the corner from Dave or myself.
Which is, there's always as something does happen to you while you're out on an investigation, because you're always teamed up 95% of the time with somebody, unless you're like yourself, Chris, just going off to yourself and doing an EVP session. If you've always teamed up with somebody who can validate what's happened with you instead of actually just an individual.
That's a very important point that you've just made there, Wayne, is the fact that when you go out as a group, you have people that can validate your experience. You've got corroboration from other people that have witnessed the same thing, rather than it becoming, as I said before, you just become another statistic otherwise, don't you? That particular location, what's supposed to be haunted, if you've seen something there and you're the only one out of the group of people that are there that has seen something there, then you're just another statistic. You've another number. You're somebody else who's experienced something.
Right, another story.
Yeah. And as a group, there's a little bit more behind it. If you can say, well, between the five of us, all five of us seen it. It was there. It was a genuine occurrence that we all witnessed. I think that kind of gives it a little bit of a taster as to, you know, the kind of things we think about and how we prepare ourselves before we go out and what we might like using. I'm sure we'll cover it again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, you're always learning in this.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody who wants to get into paranormal investigation to stop watching the TV shows for information. Just watch them for inspiration. Yeah. And get out there and do it.
It's totally different when you're out in the field to what actually happens on TV.
Yeah.
Like I said, when stuff happens, you're either scared and you want to run, or you'll just look at it and think, did that just happen?
And in many cases, it did.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I think that'll do us for now, and no doubt we'll be back again. So cheers for listening. It's nice to be able to give some kind of information or help to anybody who might be interested in the paranormal community, or anybody who wants to start out as a paranormal investigator. So it's thanks from me, Dave.
And it's thanks from me, Wayne.
And me, Krista.
Hope to speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Listening to Tachyon Radio, the station that's so far in front, it meets itself coming back.
You're listening to Tachyon Radio, the station that's so far ahead, it meets itself on the way back. Tachyon Radio.